It says starting. Okay. So we are on air and we are live. So the first time, I know everybody's probably not going to hop on for another 15, 20 minutes because they're just going to mess it up or be late or whatever. So we'll have to see if we get anybody that pops on. And right now we don't have
where are you looking at the comments or the
it's the Merch Girl Boss Edition YouTube channel. I can send you the link real quick.
All right.
Yeah, I'm probably going to have to pop it on someplace else.
I got it.
Since I'm in the control room. We all have all of our devices all over the place so that we can check it out.
Yeah, I probably should have done that earlier. Hi. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, hey. I'll hop on and I'll comment as myself. That'll be fun. Because right now I'm logged in as Merch Girl Boss.
And then so we'll hit the... All right. Can't see the comment.
We are live.
All right.
Rock on, friends. No sound issues, no tech issues.
Nope, and we have a very exciting guest today. Blake, how do you say your last name? I'm sorry.
My last name is Polish, so it's Lut, but on Facebook I just put my middle name.
Okay. So we'll just call you Blake then. But so we have Blake with us today of Merch Campus. And that's really exciting to have him on. I didn't even know who you were until YouTube was recommending all your videos to me, and I binge watched them in one afternoon, and I was like, this guy is good, short, sweet, to the point, very helpful, and it's really cool to have you on. So thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Happy to be here.
So where are you from?
We are. My family's European. My mom's American, and we came here, and now we're based in Connecticut for the past 5 years. Came from Europe.
Wow. Connecticut is such a random state. That is too cool.
I know. Close to New York. So I started college in New York. I didn't finish it, but so it was kind of close to that. Yeah.
So what did you start college for? What were you initially going for?
Oh, I was undecided, so that was liberal arts.
Okay. Hey, that's what I started as too. You know what's funny is I think that, when kids, I just can't even imagine now. I'm looking back at 18 or some of my cousins that are 18 years old and thinking hey, I went to school at 18 and I was deciding what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. That's wild. I'm so glad that that's not what happened to me. After college, I fell into, online stuff, which is fantastic, but that's a lot of freaking pressure to try and decide when you're 18. I think it's pretty ridiculous, actually.
I don't know how people do it. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. I don't think that many people do. It's kind of a, you hear all this, they don't, or they're in school forever, or even, 5, 6, whatever years. And I don't know, it's tough. Or they get out and then they find out, wow, this isn't really what I thought it was. So I don't know. We have to have a better system of kind of figuring that out, I think, right?
Yeah, totally. I'm a big fan of the online education. I think Udemy is just nuts.
Awesome.
Yeah, they can give you an MBA degree for a fraction of the price. Essentially.
You know what? It's really to the point where honestly, I went to school, I went to college, I loved college, all about it. I was a pretty good student, whatever. But I really think now I have a daughter, she's 2.5, and I'm just I don't know, college, hey, I guess if you really want, if you need to go for a specific reason, otherwise, there's so many other different things that, you could do, and you definitely don't need to spend, that time there, unless, again, it was a blast, it was a great time, but it's amazing, the education that's out there, and I think that kind of leads us into, a decent conversation about merch, and where there's so many people that come into merch that don't know anything necessarily about it. And there's everything out there, whether it's, you can get it on Udemy for, a great price or, basically free. So to be able to get an education and generate an income at home is just insane. So anyways, Blake, how about you give us a little bit of a background on you, right before merch came into your life, what you were doing, and then kind of, how you found it and your journey with that.
Yeah. Sure. But it's cool because there's an exotic, kind of an exotic story. So I'd recently like left college. I dropped out. And so I was trying to find work, and I was working in New York for a bit, and it was pretty terrible. I was doing that for a while, working in restaurants. And then I decided I just had some money saved up, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to just go to Asia and see what happens, figure out if there's another way to kind of make money. Because you start to hear you hear people making money online, and it starts to pique your curiosity, but you haven't actually considered it. I know that's the case for like a lot of us. So I decided I'm going to go do that in Bali for a couple months. So that's when I first heard about merch.
Wow.
Yeah, it's super cheap flights round trip. It's like less than $500. It's pretty great. And it's like more expensive to go to LA than it is. But
yeah.
Anyway, long story short, I applied, really excited, and it was like, okay, your application has been accepted. Now let's get back to you. I start to like look on Facebook groups. I'm like, yeah, still waiting. 8 months later, I was like, so I ended up forgetting about it and going back to my life, which was just like working at like a restaurant in my town. So then, like May-ish of 2017, so like a year ago and a half before the summer, I get the acceptance email. So that was very exciting. So different now in many ways, but yeah. So then I was like, wow, I'm not doing anything. I'm just working at my pizzeria. I've got like the next 6 to 8 months. I hear Q4 is great. I'm just going to try to give this a shot. And then I just begin the learning process, which takes a while.
Yeah. So, I mean, did you have any, when you started out, you were designing yourself?
Yeah, it was terrible. And as fast as I could, I tried to outsource, but I would only do that. Like, I didn't want to do it in the first tiers. Like, I kind of wanted to figure out to be able to put together some stuff. So yeah.
That's smart though. And I think that that's one of the things that, I mean, that totally makes sense. You kind of have to know, if you're figuring it out for yourself, what to direct somebody because otherwise you can't decide if it's just not working because, maybe their designs aren't working or whatever. It's not working because maybe you're not directing them properly. So I think there's a balance. So it's good that you kind of figured that out.
Interesting point. It's really interesting. Like, I remember, at least in the merch journey, that there was always points where I would get like a sense of overwhelm. And it was like part of the learning process. So the first time I hired someone from Upwork, I was proper like stressed. And I was like, oh, I gotta like this Ukrainian guy. And I was like, he was sending me designs back. And I was like, this is not what I wanted. And then getting like hyper stressed. And my comfort was completely like uncomfortable. Like, I'd never done that before, right? So anyway, then the next, like prior to that was like, after like putting up like a few listings a day, I would just max out. I was like, whoa, I just can't do that. And it's funny, like as you slowly increase the level of comfort, it gets so much easier. Like now I can, probably put up hundreds upon hundreds of listings a day if I wanted to. And then I don't know, I just think like for beginners, it's important to realize that whenever you feel that sense of overwhelm, it's just a sign that you're stretching your ability a little bit, and then come back to it a week later and it'll be better. That's kind of like you incrementally, at least I got periods of overwhelm with merch, and then now it's very, very automatic.
No, that's huge. And I think that's a big point in realizing that you're challenging yourself, you're learning, and you're growing. And if you're not hitting that, that happens to me in this past year has been insane. We've been putting ourselves, I've talked about it a little bit, but we've been putting ourselves in situations where it's incredibly overwhelming, and to the point to where like there's like mini breakdowns here and whatever, but they've been mini because we realized, we've been doing this long enough that we know that this is part of the process. And when you feel that, you need to dig in harder. And when you dig in harder, you're going to get over that. And then it's just going to be, you're on to that next one, So, yeah, I think that's a great point. And especially for, new people that are finding it, I think that you always have those doubts and those feelings like, oh my gosh, maybe this is the part where it's too much or it's not for me or whatever. No. Like, embrace it, control that, and then you'll get over that hump, and then just know that there's going to be something else. You're going to feel that again, but as long as you continue to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, I think that's a great point you just made.
Yeah, totally. And it goes all the way from the first thing, like when you just open Photoshop for the first time. It's like you just like completely overwhelmed. But then gradually, if you just stick to it, it becomes automatic. Like now I can whip up a design in Photoshop. I mean, I'm not good at Photoshop, but I can put up like a basic design really quickly. And anyone can do that, but they just have to be willing to be okay being overwhelmed for a bit. That's part of learning, right?
Now, when did that switch come for you, where you were finding yourself being overwhelmed and then being able to cruise? Like, where was that switch?
So it was basically specific to different levels of like the business. So the first time I had to hire someone from Upwork was my first level of overwhelm. The first time I had to like hire a couple designers was my next level. And it's always like whenever it's like kind of like increasing, like creating systems in the business, like what I did.
So the different milestones
along
exactly. the way. Yeah.
And then you look back and you're like, oh, it's so easy now to actually do that. But when you're encountering, like for me, what was really hard was one of my goals this year was to kind of automate merch, in the sense that I would have someone actually uploading remotely on my computer, and then I would have like a designer and them communicating together. And so that was like kind of an overwhelm point as well.
Yeah. I mean, and I heard, and I think a few years ago, it was well before March, when we were kind of on our entrepreneur journey, we had, some awesome mentors, and they talked about, and they always called it stretch and secure. So you're like stretching your capacity. And when you get to that point, kind of like a rubber band, and when you get to the point where you feel it's going to snap, then that's when you have to like lock it in and then you get comfortable with that. And then once you don't feel that tension anymore, you got to stretch until you feel that tension. It's that constant growing. So, yeah, I hope that people can, appreciate that once they hit it. It sucks. It never feels better. I think that's one of the things that like you always, because when even us right now we're growing our different businesses and stuff, and you just feel like, it's always that feeling. And you just recognize it a little bit more. But it never is just like, oh yeah, this is nothing. Like it's because it gets bigger, it's more pressure. So let's see, I'm trying to think. I actually jumped on here to see if there's any questions or anything that was on the, finally I have I'm paying attention to the comments, and I never do. So I'm trying to be a little bit more proactive on that.
There's a lot of, I love your videos, Blake. A lot of that. So, and I have to agree. What made you want to start doing the videos even? I mean, we could start with that too. Because you have a very unique channel. Very helpful.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. I remember when I would, back in the day, like last year, I was really hungry for information. Like anyone who's starting out merch pretty much just wants to eat everything up, like podcasts, blogs, videos. And there was not I really wanted just really concise videos. And often I would actually find that on Merch Informer's channel, because he was literally just teaching you his software. There wasn't really space for him to fluff. So I was really drawn to Neil's stuff and things like that. And Neil is the case study he did with his girlfriend was great. But anyway, that's kind of the big thing. I love it if I can make my videos pretty much just I actually edit them a lot. So the latest one is 7 minutes, and I pulled it down from 18 minutes. And so there's so much times where I'm just going and just random tangents, but I like to make it condensed because I feel it's better for the viewer. Yeah.
So did you do videos before this, or did it just happen for anything, or did you just started it when you did merch?
Yeah. I used to, way back, when I lived in Austria, I used to put up, I had a YouTube channel with actually more subscribers than I do now. And it was for music. Because I loved electronic music, and I would basically find unreleased music. This is when YouTube was a bit more Wild West, and I was doing all of this copyright infringing stuff, putting up other people's music without their permission. So that was kind of what I used to do. So I'm kind of familiar with editing stuff in iMovie and the YouTube platform. Cool. Yeah.
Very cool.
Sure. I just wanted to say something around, this is just a random point. Sometimes you'll see sellers who have, tens of thousands of shirts up, and the daily sales number doesn't always kind of reflect how much it should be. Because you're wow, last year, let's say they had 2,000 shirts up and they were selling, let's say 30 shirts a day. this year, let's say they have like 10,000, you would assume it to be 150 shirts a day, just the proportion of it, right?
Right.
And it's so interesting to me that that's often not the case. Like some of these big sellers, like one of the guys, like Matt Carlett, I remember hearing an interview with him. He was like, he had half the number of shirts up live, but made more sales back like last year than he did now. And so I guess one of the things that I started to do more actively in my account is, and it's kind of hard now because I mean, I have like 6,000 shirts up, but I go and I tweak the prices a lot. Not many times per shirt, but across different shirts. And all of a sudden, shirts haven't sold in 12 to 8 months, you know, start to make sales. And I think it's because with so many shirts up, you know, tens of thousands, they just become like old, inactive listings in a way. And giving it a price increase just kind of reminds Amazon that it's like a fresh listing in a way. So I've been doing that a lot and seeing almost an immediate. And I've read it in the groups, like I think I saw Tara say, like, I just tweaked all my prices and made like 150 sales or something. So it's something that I would recommend for people who have shirts that used to sell and don't sell anymore. Just get in there, like tweak the price. Why not?
I think one
bomb.
Yeah, and I think here's the thing too, is I think there's what I'm noticing, and it gets me really excited because, and I remember this, and this was the exact timeline. So when I started off in online selling and I did books, I swear to you, it was like pretty much 3 years to the day where for the first 3 years, I felt like I was just like, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just doing, you know, just there was no rhyme to reason. I didn't, you know, I was just going and I will outwork anybody. Like that's what it was. And that was just it. Like, this is why I'm going to succeed, is just because I will work harder. And then it was just like, there was a switch and I was like, wait, there was like some things that I started to piece together and I kind of get it. And so I feel now I'm kind of in that place that like I'm starting, because I have a year in. So we started in August of last year. And so now I'm starting to see, you can start to see a pattern, you can start to see things, but we went really hard last year. And we continue to go pretty hard this year too. And so the thing is that I think people don't give it enough time. And now tell me a little bit about that with you too, because you started in May. So you've just been seeing that, you know, year two as well. Have you been noticing that you're able to see, you know, different things with your shirts that you can take in and start to apply to your business?
Oh yeah, I mean, one of my big regrets is that I wasn't in. I didn't know enough about merch for the solar eclipse.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god, if that was happening now, I could do so much better than I did last year. I basically didn't make one solar eclipse sale last year.
No.
I didn't even try. Yeah. So
no, it's funny.
Yeah.
You know what? I have to talk about the solar eclipse because we were in. So I take that back. So it was just slightly before August. August is when I actually got like. Here, when was the solar eclipse? I'm so bad because I didn't make any.
It was in August.
Okay, so yeah, so I had actually, it was after the solar eclipse, and I had been listening to like some people, and there's like, oh yeah, da, 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 and I knew, I'm like, oh, it's over. I'm like, whatever, I'll throw up like, you know, whatever, 2 shirts. And so we thought this was like genius, is that there was like a direct flight. It was a Delta flight, and it was going directly, you know, on the solar eclipse line. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like, what does it matter? Like, anybody knows about that, whatever. But I mean, who knows? We didn't really know. So we actually we put up a shirt, and it showed like the flight. It showed like, it didn't say Delta, of course, but I think it did say like the flight number, which possibly could be infringing, but I don't know. I mean, at that point we knew nothing about anything about infringement. So anyway, so we had, you know, put that up there. And again, like I said, we didn't say Delta Airlines or anything, but I think we did put the flight number and, you know, put the date. And we actually sold like 2. But that was it. That was our entire eclipse.
I put up 1 eclipse shirt and it flopped. I didn't sell anything. And I was just like, who cares? And then by the time that I really started seeing a lot of movement, it was way too late to get in there. So
we were all newbies.
That's the one thing that's like, I kick myself in the butt still. It's like, can I have another eclipse, please?
Yeah, it's a funny thing where it was an event that I just did not see being as big as it was. Like, it didn't make sense in my brain. Like, surely the elections that we're having now would have been a bigger event. but
right?
But yeah, so it's hard to predict. It's funny.
Goodness. Yeah.
But
it really...
yeah. But yeah, to go back to your thing about it taking time. Yeah, like when I first started merch last year, I was like following Neil Lassen's blueprint to the T, the case study. I was like, if it works for her, I'm gonna do exactly what she did. I was like searing the formula in my brain, but for like a couple of months, nothing happens. And I think it's during that time where people just say like, it's not for me, or it's a scam, or it's too saturated, and they just slope off. And that's the hardest part, is just giving yourself more time. I think in like nearly any venture, giving yourself more time is gonna really help you out. So that's what I just want to say about that. But what's really cool now, I believe that the more Q4 cycles like sellers can go through, just the more successful they're going to be on merch. And so if we start having a bit longer term span about this, like you don't have to devote your whole life to merch, but just keep it active on the side for as many Q4 cycles, and you're going to really kind of entrench yourself in some of the Amazon listings. You'll get reviews, you can get like sticky shirts. So I do recommend people like at least keep it active for Q4 because it helps a lot.
Absolutely. I think, and that's, like I said, I mean, it's funny because, like, again, it took me 3 seasons in, my other business to even feel like I had a grasp on it. So this one coming very similar to the same thing, coming out of like not knowing anything, even in the print on demand space, t-shirt space, whatever. Like, it just makes sense that it's going to take a little while. So it, to me, is extremely exciting and comforting, because I'm just looking at it like, in 5 years, like if I just keep up, like at 5 years, and it's not that demanding on you, and I just observe what I'm doing, and I throw up good shirts, and I try and learn, like I will be so much far ahead. Like that's just, and people are like, oh, so many people are jumping on the platform. Yeah. And so many people are jumping off because they give up too fast. There's not many people that have been on for that long. And you know what? The people that have been on for a year plus are probably going to stick, because they're there, that they know they've seen enough, they've experienced enough. They've had a few things hit because they've been persistent and consistent enough. And then they just know that I'm just going to continue to get better. It's not like right out the gate, you're going to be this, amazing story. I love hearing those stories. I mean, because to me, it motivates me. It shows me what's possible. But I know for some people that can discourage them. And unfortunately, like, I don't want that for people. Like, you have to understand, give yourself a little bit of grace and time, and just know that in the next, couple years, you could just totally be like dominating. So I hope people like kind of, take that in, and it's just a great opportunity without the risk. That's the thing that just is awesome to me. Because there's really nothing out there that's like that.
Yeah, we definitely, a lot of us will take it for granted. I think a big thing that affects how people relate to merch is also kind of like what their goal is with merch. Because some people, I mean, so many people are getting taken down now for just really stupid, infringing content. And I think their goal was just to kind of make a quick buck. But people who really kind of want it to be a big kind of portion of their income, I would really encourage you to give yourself time as if it was like, I don't know, as if it was like school. Like, you give yourself more time to learn how to, like, to be a doctor takes what, like 8 years of schooling or something, and then like years in residency, and to just get that job. So if we just give ourselves like 3 months in the merch space and we expect it to kind of supplement our basic income, it's a bit unfair, I think. Like, it makes sense to kind of treat it as a skill to learn, and also to keep in mind that more and more people are getting access to Amazon every year. It's like consumers, not so it's like, while there might be more sellers, the pie is expanding. So we got to be a little optimistic, because then new products come and customers love new products. It's a good thing, like, that's going to happen. Like, the first time ever, I think we probably won't get like a freeze. Things like, it's a sign that things are kind of evolving. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, and that's really exciting too. And I agree. Like, you have to look at it for the longevity of it, and the fact that, you hear it all the time. Merch is only like 3 years old. It just turned 3. We haven't even really scratched the surface yet. So if you can, just any bit of you that is willing to put in the work and to just keep going, even if it's not going the way you want it to, just stick with it, because eventually it will click. And you're right. And I think people give up too soon because they see other people talking about their successes, and it's like, well, why isn't that happening for me? And you can't think of it that way. I have a friend of mine and she's concerned about Q4, and I'm like, well, don't focus on this Q4, focus on the next Q4. She's only been on the platform for a few months, and she's starting to get discouraged, and it's like, well, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not. So I think the mindset is really important to have too about.
Well, and I'd have to say to people that are looking at anything of Q4, is that truly, if you're less than a year in, Q4 is not starting for you until Black Friday. Like, you're not going to see anything. And I mean, you already have, fine, thank you. But like, for me last year, like, it was just like, I just went on faith because everybody said it. And I'm like, whatever, you know what? I'm just going to keep pumping it away. And this was like, I just pushed until then. I didn't even look at the results. Like, that's one of the things that you guys have to give your like set point. So push until that time. And then, you know what? It was just like, bam, like, holy cow, here's all these sales. And I'm like, what the heck? Where did this come from? And then fortunately, even the freeze didn't really affect, like, we had a killer December and that was done. Like, we were hooked. And I'm just like, okay, that's great. So, I mean, I don't know. What about you guys like last year? Because again, I remember people talking about Q4. And to me, like, until I didn't even realize that Q4 started in the beginning of October. Because I'm like, really, not really,
I was starting to hate people talking about Q4 because nothing was happening for me either until Black Friday. And that's one thing that I was really grateful for, like Amy Herberger and the Girl Boss group, because of the whole, like, no expectations. And like, that's still so important today, like, not to have the expectations. But I mean, I was getting disappointed. Like, come on, where is this magical Q4? And yeah, it took a while. I am excited about this one though.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think because I had the same feeling as you last year, and I was like, what is this Q4? They've been throwing around this all year. I saw Ken Reel like posting in the group, like, so how much are you gonna make this Q4? And I was seeing like epic numbers. I was like, and it was just like all quiet. And then honestly, like after November 15th is when all these random shirts started selling that just haven't been selling. I was like, wow, I haven't seen that in like 8 months or something, and it just sells. And then, like you said, my first like $1,000 day was Cyber Monday, and then the first week of December was crazy. I was like easily every day over 1,000. Then like one day, basically nearly 2,000, and I was just like, it was just like raining money down. But again, like, I don't want to also set people's like hopes up. Like, I'd been working the past 6 months purely on merch. I'd actually stopped working at the restaurant, and I was like, okay, I can't do both. And then I basically had like given myself to merch for 6 months. And then also got lucky in that, in terms, you know what I mean? So it's like, even though you can be working your ass off, like sometimes you won't get lucky. And sometimes you will without working. It's kind of an interesting game sometimes.
I mean, I appreciate the humbleness there, but I think that if people can catch that, there's not many people that would say that they worked their ass off for 6 months and dedicated themselves for 6 months consistently on something and it didn't pay off. And I think that that's even, so we're talking, you know, we're bringing up even longer term things of a year. And of course, I don't want to say, I don't want to, you know, have, again, any disappointments and people, or again, set any expectations. But if you're being real with yourself and saying that you know, worked full time on something for 6 months, like I would pretty much, because I think that consistency there's something to be said for that. And I really believe if you're in the game and you're in the mix and you dedicated yourself for that time, I think you're going to be pretty happy with your Q4. I can't imagine that there's anybody out there that just said, oh, I just, you know, went, you know, balls out and was disappointed for consistently for 6 months, if they're being true to themselves, you know.
Well, like, even what we've talked about on this show, Amanda, is even if you're only doing little things each day, like, eventually it's all going to pay off one way or another.
So compound.
Just being consistent.
Yeah, I have one of my videos. It's like my number one thing. I was like the 5 keys to merch success, and the number one thing is consistency. So I definitely agree with both of you.
And I remember, so here's the thing too, like, when I had started, I really didn't know. I had like very basic understanding of Illustrator. Like, I took one class in school, and it would have been 10 years prior at that point. Maybe even a little bit, gosh, no more. Yeah, like 12, 13 years prior. And it was split. It was a semester that was split between Illustrator and Photoshop. So it was so basic. And the only thing that I really like connected with was Illustrator. I still very much dislike Photoshop. So anyway, I work in Illustrator. But I mean, there was just so much like basics that I knew there, and that's what I kept working. But I could tell that I continued to improve, because remember last year when we had like the limits on the uploads, like I improved so much because every single day I was doing something, because I needed to be able to upload just a few shirts because I didn't have, you know, that many uploads. And so I wanted to, every day I'm maxing out uploads, I'm designing. So with that, like you do continue to get better because you're in the game all the time, versus if you're like, you know, okay, I'm only going to work on this on one day and I'm going to cram it all in and whatever, like it's not going to be as good, you know. But here's the thing too, is, you know, a little bit of, I don't know, comfort for people is that you do have the ability, say you're not able to do this, you know, full time, and you have to go at this, you know, in bits and pieces. And that's the beauty of merch. Like you can totally do that. Like right now, like we don't technically have a full-time job, but we do have another business that is absolutely full-time overtime that we, you know, work on. And we still do, we did 50 uploads of merch today. We don't do that every day. Like we definitely don't do that every day. But when we can, like anything that is, there's a little bit of a hole that we're working with on our other business, we tackle merch and, you know, really try to prepare ourselves for Q4 and be structured and do what we can there, because we know that it'll pay off. You know, even though like we don't look at our sales as based on, you know, the proportion of, you know, how many shirts we have versus like last year, because again, it's a little bit, we kind of have to figure that out. There's a lot of variables in there for that, why it doesn't directly correlate, but we don't let it discourage us. We just know that we just need to figure it out. So what are you doing now? And when did you start like, okay, this is my game plan for this year. This is what I'm doing for Q4. And what have you been doing, you know, recently to prep for that?
So I have to confess that I went at it way harder last year. I'm really I'm taking it a lot more chill this year. The great thing now is if you understand the process of merch, you can do stuff a lot more effectively. So like, for example, I jumped on a Halloween trend and just had a killer Halloween. And it didn't take me that much effort. I actually outsourced a lot of it, and a lot of it was just scale designs. So I have to say, like, the fire is not under my feet as it was last year. And so right now, you know, I'm already feeling the Q4 lift, and I'm putting shirts up every day just because I know like the chances of shirts making a sale just shoots up just like stupidly, like the chance of them making any sale. And so I was like, might as well get sales, like, but also my attention is focused on other things. The merch is kind of like it was my main ship, and then now I'm trying to create other revenue streams as well. So that's where my attention is focused. So not 100% on Q4, even though I do think, like, to anyone who is listening, like, this is the time of the year to be focusing 100% on merch. If you take first 8 months of the year off, that's fine. Join like September through December, but give it everything, because this is where it really will impact your portfolio, like whether it's for reviews or shirts that will stay on Amazon and start selling year round. It's really important. Yeah.
Huge. And I have to say, same thing. Like I've noticed that the shirts that we had sold during Q4, those are the ones that stick, and those ones are the ones that do sell consistently. And so that's just, I mean, for whatever reason that is, like you said, if you sell a good amount and then they get reviews, like that's just the opportunity for them to just get more views. And then I feel like that's how you're building that portfolio. So there is a lot of meat in Q4 for sure.
And so I want to repeat again, like, the more Q4 cycles you stick through as a merch seller, just the more successful you're going to be. So if you can think of it a little bit, just say like, okay, if I'm going to stay in merch for the next 5 years, like give yourself more time. Just know that after those 5 years, just by virtue of you passing through Q4 that many times, you're going to have a good like portfolio of shirts if you were diligently uploading. It's almost inevitable like that. And like, I mean, for us as well, like, it's very hard to imagine what merch will look like in 5 years. But that's kind of like another point. Yeah, for sure.
So tell me a little bit about your channel then. So you bring out content for people, and I'm going to admit, I told Amy, it was funny when she brought it out. They're like, hey, you want to bring out Blake? I'm like, absolutely. I was like, I had never heard of you, but here's the only reason. It's not because of any reason that like because everybody else has. Because like they're like, yes, let's bring on Blake or whatever, and I'm just like, sometimes I have to kind of like shut it off a little bit. But everybody else knew who you were, and they were so thankful for your videos, and everybody was just like raving. Not that it mattered to me because I'd love to talk to anybody, but they were just raving about you. So share a little bit about your channel and what you bring and kind of what your goals with so people that potentially haven't like hopped on can jump on and experience this awesomeness that I've been hearing about recently.
That's funny. Oh, well, that's good to hear. I guess one of my goals, I started like open the channel back like earlier this year, and I put up a few shirts. You can see them, like old ones. They're kind of like unsure, and then I just stopped it for 6 months. And then recently in September, I think it was like late September, I was like, I want to give this a crack. And you can like use some of the merch SEO stuff for like YouTube SEO. And so I was like, I want to make this channel like hyper optimized just for merch. Like if people type in merch, like I want to, be up there, and I want to be in all the related channels. Cause now if you look at like some of the big merch channels, like in the related videos, you'll see me. That's just because I'm always like tagging other channels and like being like an SEO guy. So that was like
awesome.
my goal was like to just optimize the channel. And then the next one was to be really, really like helpful without like asking for much. And that was my whole goal for the first couple of months. And then you're right. Like I started to see in Facebook groups, people being like, check out this video from Merch Campus or something. And I was like, okay, cool. So now it's starting to be a bit sticky and people are referring to it as like good content. So then what was really nice is, because in any case, I'm talking about cool softwares like Merch Informer and da-da-da. And so now I can just put like a link in one of my YouTube videos. And if someone buys it through them, like I'll get like a little, bit of like change so I can get a coffee or something. It's cool. And then all of a sudden, that's kind of like the trade. So like you're giving cool value to people. And if they actually want to keep going down the merch journey, they will probably invest in merch tools. Like there's so many cool, like Michael Essany's newsletter, which is just so fire. I don't know how he does it, but it's so good. And so like if they want to do that, they'll go into that newsletter. And so it's kind of cool to be a resource.
Yeah. And I do have to say, I'll actually throw myself under the bus. And this is probably the reason why I hadn't, because I don't pop onto YouTube for like anything. I was actually just talking to Amy about this, and I was just like, dude, like because I'm probably a little bit older. Like that's just my generation, is that like we were not big YouTubers. I'm mid-30s, so that's just, we're more Facebook. It just is what it is. So has nothing to do with that. I just am not usually hopping over there. So unless somebody from the group is loud enough to pull me, from the group over to there, so that'd be totally why. But like I said, I love that so many people initially were just like right away. We're just like, yes, oh my gosh, yeah, let's get them on. So thank you so much for hopping on and for all your content. I can't wait to check it out. So.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's fun. It's interesting, this thing about platforms, like, because I'm not very active on Instagram, but it's going wild. Like everyone's on Instagram. The engagement is through the roof. People are like setting up massive e-com shops just through like swipe ups and things like that. And I have no clue because I'm not very savvy with it. So like, it's also with like Facebook. I don't know. I feel a bit more comfortable on YouTube. Like I don't have a Facebook fan page or anything. I don't know why. It's cool. It's funny how we grab it.
Funny. It is. It's really funny because, like I said, then so I'm like more Facebook. Same thing. Not so much Instagram, not so much YouTube. And so tell me if you want. Do you want to share a little bit about like what you're looking at now? You said you're kind of like working on a few other things. Is that something you want to talk about, or?
Yeah, I mean, sure. It's not necessarily merch related, but it is like e-com.
Yeah.
And so it's basically driving e-com sales through sales funnels as opposed to through like Shopify stores. So you would have something. Oh yeah, that's it in broad. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. So I mean, and that's something that we're kind of learning a little. My husband and I were on the physical product side, so we've kind of been looking at that a little bit. And so we do. I mean, I just think it's a great combination. And if you're doing that, are you doing it to where it would be like your own stuff or digital products, or you're working on selling products that you're not actually housing in inventory, or what are you doing?
I mean, all of those are great, and I could see it like applying for anyone. It's like, actually, funny thing is, I initially like started the YouTube channel, and I wanted to sell like a course. That was like my goal. I was like, I'm gonna sell a course. And then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, I just don't feel comfortable selling this. And so I started to take every module from the course and just make it a YouTube video. And I feel like it's had so much of a better result in the sense of like you're actually building like a nice community. But yeah, to go back to your question, yeah, it could be like digital products. The thing is, I just want to learn how to do it. Like I want to be able to basically be able to sell anything online, and then I can help my friends because I have like my friends doing really cool stuff. Like one of my friends, they're starting like a really cool like health product brand, like beauty products, but really like eco-friendly, like vegan stuff. And like I would love to be able to help them launch really fast and then help like them be financially free. That's kind of like my goal, like to kind of help others, because merch is good, but merch can take a while. Like you want to be building your portfolio, taking time year after year. But I think to really kind of quickly launch e-com products, you know, I think funnels would help. But the thing is, not everyone wants to do e-com products. You know what I mean? It's just yeah.
No, that's awesome, and I love that you said like that you're interested in bringing the courses back. It's funny because we've been like so we've kind of been in the space for a long time. So we've had people say, oh, blah blah blah, you're gonna call it the course, and I was like, no, like there's really great courses out there. Like I'm not going to compete with that. Like there's great courses that I'm learning from. Like why would I want to be subpar to that? You know, I just rather, and I just kind of think that, you know, I don't know, maybe we can come up with something good, but it's real. That's not anything that's like in our horizon. And I just know it's a heck of a lot of work for sure to be able to do that. So, and everything's constantly changing, you know, which is, it keeps it fun and exciting. It's the same thing with merch. And I think that's one of the things that people coming in, you know, from the outside might not really see initially because if they've never been in this space, but to us, we just totally expected things to just like constantly change. So it's just kind of, you know, normal to us, but
it's tough. Like I remember one of my, like when I had the course, because I basically had the course all set up and then ended up just not selling it and repurposing the videos. And I was like, oh, damn, that trick that I showed, like a research trick, just didn't work anymore. Like, because Amazon had changed their algorithm because like one of the things was you basically sort, you know, you can sort the merch shirts by recently added, and you just see like the shirts that were just uploaded, which ones are already selling, to kind of give you a sense of where the money's going. And then all of a sudden that thing didn't work anymore. And I was like, God, if it's in a course, like that's the worst thing you want to happen, is like your stuff to be outdated. So I kind of like merch is such an evolving platform. That stuff that worked a year ago doesn't necessarily work now, but
right. Yeah.
One thing that I really like about your YouTube channel is you come across like you're truly genuine and wanting to really help people, especially in like the lower tiers, to be successful. I would have never known that you originally wanted to sell a course.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, all the power to you, but I mean, what you have going on your channel is really helpful, and I think it's going to make a big difference in a lot of people's merch journeys. That's
really nice to hear. It's interesting, like in the Facebook groups, you might have seen like there's a few like people who are now being featured in magazines.
Yes.
Like Glenn and Michael. And it was like kind of giving me a sense like, yeah, merch is starting to get out there a little bit, and people think like, oh my God, it's saturated. And it's like, wow, this is really just the beginning. Like if you think about it, no one knows about merch. Everyone I bring it up to is like, did you know that Amazon like sells merch and that you can put stuff on it? I'm like, never heard of that. Like, no one knows of it still. So it's still a micro community, that also some of the best community, like the people who went to Seattle, you'll see like how close they were. They just genuinely love hanging out with each other. I don't know. It's a very generally good community. Outside of, there's like a fringe group of like of infringers, and they just like hit up every obvious infringement and with like underscores, pluses, minuses to like string together like Gucci and tragic stuff. But yeah, outside of that,
all stuff. It was actually, you know, commenting earlier because we're in a side chat, and you know, people are getting like really frustrated with some of the P4P stuff, and it's just funny because, you know, it's stuff that it sucks, but it's just kind of everywhere. It's stuff that you're just gonna have to deal with. It'll run its course. There's always going to be that, you know, if you think that, you know, somebody's infringing on you, like you said, look at the Gucci, look at the fake purses, look at the, just everything that's out there that once you're a big brand is, there's knockoffs for it. It doesn't mean that you have to accept it. Obviously you do, what you need to do. But it really is just part of it, and it does not matter what you're in. It was actually interesting. I went to a event with Trey Llewellyn, who does funnels for physical products, and they were talking about how people were actually stealing their deals. And I was like, to me, like, this was very new to me, like this entire concept. So when they were talking about that, I was like, seriously, here I am thinking that I found like the holy grail of there's no problems here. Like, you don't have any problems you have to deal with Amazon. You don't have to deal. Like, no, you still have to deal with crap. Like, it doesn't matter what you're doing. There's always going to be stuff that you're just going to have to learn to deal with. So, yeah. So anyways, I just thought that was really interesting, because here I am thinking like this is, and I'm like, wow, you guys have to deal with somebody trying to come in and steal your, like, this doesn't even make sense to me. So
yeah,
it is what it is, guys. We just have to, don't let it blow you out the water, I guess is the whole point of that, is it just comes with the territory.
Yeah. And like Blake said, it's a small community, like outside of this really great community. So definitely focus on that too. But, it is so infuriating.
Yeah.
It's not great is like all these random trademarks popping up. So that's why I'm really, thank God for like the Watchdog group. Definitely. The thing is, I think every person, once they start to kind of, if they're able to just like themselves put up letters of protest, will be great. It's really, really interesting. I feel like this kind of like rogue renegade trademarkers, it's almost like the resistance is starting in like the merch watchdog group. It's so interesting. Like, but I think this is like could be like a huge thing, like a huge movement, like outside of merch, you know what I mean? In the whole clothing industry. I just thought it was very interesting because Ken was so passionate about it. And I was like, why is Ken so passionate about this thing? Like when I first heard about it. And then like, once you start to realize what's going on, you're like, oh, wow, this is actually a big deal. And it's worth getting involved. So I'm a big fan of that group.
Yeah.
I like the Star Wars reference too.
Yeah. No, and I think with the trademark stuff is that it's really coming to light because of print on demand, though. So, I mean, I don't think that the reason why it wasn't a big problem before is just because who's going to trademark something if they're not, I mean, because think about it. If you're going to put something in, say, class 25, and you're going to make t-shirts with something and it's before print on demand, then you're investing a lot of money in that. So you don't even know if something's going to work or not. Now people are going in and just observing the market and then deciding, oh, this is working. I'm going to be the first to trademark it. That's not, excuse me, like that's not what trademark was for. Like it means that you came up with, you conceptualized, you brought it to market first, not you analyze the market and decide to be, hey, I'm going to be the smart one that's going to be, trademark this first. Well, guess what? It's not going to work like that forever, hands down. Like you said, there's a big movement going on. There's going to be a lot of people losing, a good amount of money. It's going to be short-lived. It's a smash and grab right now. And that does mean that people do need to come in, step up, help out, whether it's giving to the Patreon, the Merch Watchdogs Patreon, which they can go find through the Facebook group, or, learning how to do letters of protest. They do a great job of explaining that. So I think that, it's something, again, it's a little annoying, but we'll get through it.
Oh, sure. I was thinking like for people watching, I'm just trying to think of like what I could say that might help, because there's like a few things I think that people could be doing better. And one is focusing on actually building a brand outside of like merch. This is something it's really not being done enough, and it could be one of the easiest ways to grow your merch business is actually building a community, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, whatever, outside of merch that you could just send to your merch shirts. And when you send external traffic to your merch shirts, it gives that product such a boost. Like if you understand Amazon SEO, they reward external traffic like hugely. They're so happy for it. And then also starts to rise organically, so you get organic sales. It's almost like probably one of the best ways to go about merch is starting your own brand. But I realize also that,
I'm sorry, I need a button right now that just has like a little thing that'll show like glitters and fireworks going off while you're talking, when you're saying that. Because I hope people aren't missing this and are not just like listening to this in the background, because what you said is just huge. So sorry to like interrupt, but they need to pay attention to exactly what you said. And that is incredibly important, because I know this from it took me a little while, but we know it from the physical product side. So what you're saying is 100% dead on. So please continue on that path. But everybody needs to picture like fireworks going off when he's talking.
Yes. I mean, I kind of, yeah. I pretty much just said it. So I don't know what else I would say.
That's huge. That's great.
Is that something that you've been doing? Is driving your own traffic and starting to build your own brands? Is that like another venture that you've been kind of going into yourself?
Yeah, I'll probably be doing that with the side project. For merch, I'm thinking about consolidating brands, but I'm kind of waiting. Like, I'm waiting till they have better like brand management stuff going on, and because pretty much anyone can hop onto brands. They just put in your brand name. They're like now part of your brand, which is pretty funny.
We had shirts, and it's funny because we have some shirts that are like, it's not just like the keyword brand. It's like keyword brand with a specific nonsense like word that's on there. And through this last trend, because we had some shirts that did well last year, so we're doing well this year, hopping on, I was like, how did they, this is a nonsensical word that they just jumped on. Totally yes, like it was so obnoxious. But yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, that's a huge point. But I can tell you same thing now, and because somebody was asking me about you know, merch, you know, are you going as hard? I'm like, you know what, we're putting a good amount of focus on it. We're just doing it differently. There's just, now that we've had a year under our belt, there's a little bit of strategy to it. And exactly like what you said, like definitely figuring out ways how to drive traffic outside of Amazon.
Let me also say, like, I agree. Let me also say, like, I think one of the core reasons is also, it comes back to time frame. If people are looking to make a quick buck, they would not think about growing a brand. If people are like going to build something that they're proud of course you'd want to put as much as you could into this brand and building a community and connecting with your people. Like, you know, Matt and Aaron from Merch Elephant, like I know that they're digging into growing their brand right now, and it's going to pay off hugely because they're making it. It's really comes down to like how much are you putting yourself into it? Like, are you going to be proud about this? And if you are, you're probably going to put more time into it, a couple of years or so. So that's the thing. Like for me, I'll probably, if I'm going to start to sell like e-com products, I would only want to do it if I'm proud of it and if I want to grow it into a brand. Because so many of us join merch and we just kind of want to get the one hit sales of all these like completely unrelated like shirts, which is what I did, like, and I still do. But I think once you start to group, you know, something into something that you love and it has a cohesive like thing going on, so really it could be a really good thing for you. Like it'll last outside of merch, you know?
Yeah. No, and that's key. And like I said, it took us a long time to learn that on the physical product side, I tell you. And it's so funny because what you just said totally mirrors what's going on right now with our physical products. And initially we didn't even pay attention to building brands. We didn't, whatever. It was just like, we're going to, you know, find good products. We're going to sell them. And we started realizing like, holy cow, like we brought this product that is to a group and a community that we, you know, love, and it's a great product. And it took us a little while to realize that, but now what you said is dead on. And I think that sure, if we would have realized it before, would we have started earlier? Yes. And that correlates so strongly. And we're starting to see, like, connect the dots between, you know, that and merch. So we're trying to be a little bit more, you know, utilize some of our experience that we've had instead of being like, okay, we've have all this experience in the physical product side, and kind of match that with merch. And I realized, like, for instance, and I'll speak about this, there's a guy that does really, really well in merch. And he does FBA, and he was doing FBA before, and his one physical product is in the apparel space. I think it's a shirt, I'm not really sure, but so it's FBA, it was totally before print on demand. Well, no wonder he's killing it. He had that direct correlation that was so, you know, tight to where he saw his shirt and what he had to do to make this shirt do well on FBA, to where now he was able to make, okay, if I can have this one shirt do well on FBA, what do I need to do over here on merch? And so to me, I was like, wow, it took me a freaking year to realize this. Like, what the heck is wrong with me? Like, the stuff that's going on in the physical product space is very similar. Yes, it's a different platform. It's kind of a different game, but you know, Amazon still has the same, you know, algorithms, everything, so that you know, when you're looking at, because obviously you see when you're looking at your shirts, other shirts are there, FBA shirts are there, and everything. So how Amazon's pulling stuff up is very, very similar. So I'm like, what? Seriously? I mean, I guess I'm just not that smart to make that correlation fast enough. But at least I might be slow, but at least I figure it out, you know, at some point.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. The people forget that at the other end of the channel is just like another person. It's funny when they think of like merch, it's kind of this mysterious cloud in the air where your shirts, why is my shirt not selling? It's like, just think about it. There's like people who are going on their computer looking for something, and they're looking at options. Like if you were looking at those same options, would you buy a shirt? Thing is, often it's not the case. Like you probably buy someone else's. I had the same thing. Like I had a Trumpkin shirt up, which was, you know, one of the top few like spots. But if I was being honest, I was like, I actually wouldn't buy mine. I would buy the one that crushed it because it's so much more clear and evocative. Mine was a bit more like stylish, more Etsy. But so it's like if you're just honest with yourself, you would probably not, you know, you'd choose someone else's over yours. I mean, that's at least I am the case with that.
And I think sometimes like you have to give yourself, like that's perfect. Like you said before, you have to give yourself a little bit of time with that, you know? And so to realize that, and it took us a little bit of time to realize some things. So yeah, hopefully people can just give it time, guys. I think that's, you know, fortunately pretty much everybody that we've talked to, it's the same consensus, you know, give it time and, you know, keep at it. And yeah.
And it looks like that's something that we're still all doing. Like we've been on this platform for over a year. And we're still just giving it more time because it's not an overnight thing.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's also, I feel like people it would help so much if they go into it and trying to create something that they're proud of. It just changes how they do everything. Like the difficult thing is, again, it's like the money issue because they're trying to make money from this. And so what's the fastest way to make money is not always what's the best thing for you in the long term. And so that for me is like the core conflict which a lot of people are facing, because I know that they would do so much better if they just invest in something that they're really proud of and that they connect with a core group. Like that would be the brand move, and it would just reap so much longer term rewards, but not so much in the beginning. So I'm definitely aware of it can be a bit tough to make that choice.
Yeah. No, and you mean like, are you talking about in the beginning, like what you're choosing to design for? Like, you know, eventually, like you definitely want to do stuff that you're passionate for with in your niche, but you know, going to when you're first starting, you kind of want to also figure out what works. So maybe you're kind of spreading it out a little bit. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm definitely saying when you start out, make shirts for what people are already buying. Don't try to kind of create a name for yourself, because at least what worked for me, I was just like, where are customers spending the money? Okay, I got to put my thing there to get more slots to start to figure out how this game works. That was key, because there's some people I know in the groups who've been like struggling for months to like grow their brand specifically, but it's almost like they haven't realized that customers are not buying that stuff on Amazon. So it takes a bit of time to realize what sells as well. But a great way to kind of grow your brand, you could just do it on the side on Etsy. Like Etsy is going surprisingly well for me, and I'm like not touching it. I just put the designs that sold on Amazon, put it on Etsy, you know, for 20 cents a listing or whatever, and you get like 4 times as good royalties sometimes.
So what
That's
would you
awesome.
say, somebody that's in like the 10, 25 tier, like where should their focus be right now on merch?
I would say like purely like right now would be Christmas. Like if they could watch like my latest Christmas video, I talk about how they just have to like add a Santa hat to literally every niche they can imagine. But
oh my goodness, I did that today because of your video.
Well, they can watch your video. They can watch your video, and it's for free, and it's on YouTube as Merch Campus, right?
Oh yeah, yes.
And then, and real quick too, and then I get on Merch Informer, and there's already avocado Santa hat shirts. So
cool. Go fast. The funny thing is, like, I did that like last year with really completely random things I would not expect it to like work with, and it's funny, like people just love to celebrate Christmas. So that's what I would definitely recommend, and I would actually price it low. I know there's some debate around it. I think like when people are wanting to buy like quick stocking stuffers or things like that, they just want something cheap that's cute and cool. And that's probably the best way to kind of grab a lot of sales in Q4. Like my brother, he's upstairs. He was in tier 25 last year, and he had like 24 shirts up. And he made like nearly $1,000 from like, just having a few shirts up. Because Q4, and I was telling him, I was like, ditch all the shirts, only do Christmas designs, and in every title write Christmas gift, and then like, and you'll scoop up tons of sales because that's just where all the organic traffic is clustered around. So I would go Christmas heavy if I was in tier 10 or 25.
There's some more glitter bombs.
Absolutely. No, I totally agree with that. And like you said, I think that if you're struggling, for sure. The thing is I understand that the one thing is like, okay, well, if you price to the market, so it's not super low, if you price to the market, then you can see what works. Well, if you're really struggling, I mean, some of the stuff will, especially with trends and stuff, if we want to get it kicking, like we'll price low. We'll price low, we'll monitor it. Sometimes we'll let it be low for a little while. Like right now we have a shirt that is crushing it, and we're gonna let it sell like low for a minute, and and by Thanksgiving it's gonna be popping, like, and we can just increase the price. So we did that with, we haven't done that often. That's one of the new things that we've kind of played around with. And so just kind of some of the shirts that we see, it did well last year. So I'm like, yeah, heck yeah, I'll drop the price. And you'd think right now we're like kind of close to Thanksgiving, but not that close. We got a little bit of a time span. And if you can get, a shirt taken, we did that during 4th of July. And that was the one that we pretty much the first one that we had any strategy with. And so this one, I'm like, okay, we're already feeling it. We can do it again. And it took us that long to get back to another shirt, because even with us, like, knowing some things, we had some decent shirts over Halloween, but there wasn't anything that dropped below probably 30 or 40,000 BSR, none of them, and so this one is already ramping up. So we're excited about that. And
what's your BSR for this one?
It's dropped below 20,000 so far.
Nice.
So and so I have a feeling that I would say within a week, it's going to be below 10. It's been super consistent. And so I'm excited to see. We'll have to report back. I will report back.
That's really interesting. I have like one that's pretty much exactly with like yours. It's like, it's below 20,000, probably in a week or so it'll be like pushing.
That's so cool. That's awesome. Cool. Well, so for newbies, you guys, so we're gonna wrap this up, but you guys have got to go check out his channel. Not just newbies, but I'm saying because of the Christmas thing. You were saying that you were talking about that, and you have some really.
I love newbies. I love newbies. They're like my core. Like, I recommend it's like for people below tier 500 or 1,000. They get the most value.
Well, I think that's amazing. Like that you have that, specific. So definitely. For sure happen. And I think obviously, anybody, even if you're not, getting great information. I love, learning from everybody has a different perspective. You're freaking crushing it. Like you said, you're able to have different things and be a little bit more strategic now, which is amazing. So I'm definitely going to hop on there and check it out. And, gosh, we're going to have a killer Q4. So we'll have to have you back on and kind of recap all of the predictions that we've had this year, since it's, again, only our second one, huh?
I know. Isn't that great?
So what's your brother? So what tier is your brother still working it pretty hard?
Yeah, I think he's at tier 2K.
Cool.
Just fun. He's been chugging away at the Christmas designs. It's pretty fun. Like, we've been Santa hat methoding a lot of stuff.
The Santa hats. That's like the simplest thing, and it's the greatest idea.
I just did that too, and I do have a Santa hat shirt that I think it crushes it in other times. I think it's going to be, and it's pretty unique. So I think that we're going to do well with that one. But that's cool. So do you guys do any like competitions at all between each other? Like,
yeah, we did once for like the Red for Ed.
Okay.
And because you know how it kind of moved by state, and it went to Washington. I was like, okay, Washington's on. Let's go. Let's see who can sell it first. Like, and I won.
I love it.
I don't. It's up to you if you want to share. But what tier are you on, Blake?
14K.
14K. That's pretty sweet.
we got lots of room for Q4. We better hit it. Who knows if there's going to be a freeze? We don't know, but we're trying to push. We got lots of stuff. So you fill everything. So you work at Pop Socket, standard, premium, hoodies. What do you do?
What's my spread? Pretty much just standards.
Yeah.
I gave it a shot for the pop sockets. I know people are doing well, but I was like, I just don't understand it. It's not really clicking. So I just stick with tees because it's just worked the best for me. Though I do think like if you have designs there that you can put up on long sleeve sweatshirts and stuff, it's great for this time. Like a lot of stuff is selling. If you read Merch Momentum, he's saying like it's like he's selling a lot of sweaters and hoodies.
Yeah, exactly. I've heard that as well. The same thing. Like we just haven't taken our own advice. It's so funny. It's like, hello, like this is the whole thing. Putting them up, and we're just like, okay. Well, you're like, well, we're just not too familiar. We didn't clearly give it enough time if we're talking pop sockets right now because they haven't been up. But I'm right there with you. Like we've been really focused on standards, and I was like, I know that we need to shift gears, especially for Q4 and just blast a bunch of stuff. Hoodies and everything. So.
Yeah.
Now, before we let you go, I had one question that I really wanted to ask you.
Sure.
How much time do you spend researching? Because I know on your channel you're big on research. So, like, when you're sitting down doing your research, like, how much time are you spending?
I guess it just depends on how many designs you're trying to kind of bundle together. If I'm just gonna like, what I do now often is I quickly scan Merch Informer, like the top 100. I just want to see like what the movement is. But then I actually have like certain like scalable templates that I plug stuff into. So I'll just quickly research some kind of weird like niche that I can plug into it. Not weird. Like, have you heard of this thing called axolotl? Axolotl?
No.
It's
can't
like
say that I have.
Like I think it's a lizard, the type of lizard. And I'd like never heard of it until merch. It's funny you hear about all these things through merch. And so now and then I stick that, like damning, you stick that into the template, and so now I have like I'm targeting my axolotl market, and I had no idea who axolotls were.
Okay, how do you get this? So this is the thing. Like I've heard about these, and I have no. So do you templates in Photoshop? Is that what you do?
Yeah, or I've started doing it on Merch Designer because it's just like one click saves. It's very easy. Merch Designer.
How do you do template? How do you do templates?
Oh, you basically just get a winning idea. Like this is my human costume. I'm really
Gotcha.
That would be called like what I would call like a scalable template.
Okay, and then you're just like changing a word or changing image. Okay, gotcha. So it's nothing that's like automated, because I've heard about these things that like you can literally just plug in, and I don't know if it was Michael Essick that has something that's like you can go in and it's like automated to where like you put stuff in it and it just like I'm not familiar with that.
I think Essick has something like that. Like links to the Airtable, and it like shrinks all the designs to perfect pop socket size. He's got some pretty epic stuff. Yeah, that's
amazing. But yeah, so anyways, well, again, thank you so much for popping on. It's been a pleasure having you for sure. I know that everybody's going to be hopping over to your channel to get ramped up for Christmas, and we will definitely have to have you back on so we can re-talk about, like, again, all this forecasting of this Q4. I think it's going to be really exciting coming up. So hopefully everybody is taking the advice and checking out what he has to say about the Christmas stuff, and then going hard for the next few weeks.
Should be fun. I'm excited for our Black Fridays and Cyber Mondays. Those are pretty epic usually.
Yeah, we're just gonna be everybody's just gonna be in the group.
But no expectations.
Oh yeah,
no expectations.
Oh wait, Amy, I saw something, Amy, that you posted. It was called like the power of yet.
Yes. Yeah, so that really resonated with me.
On merch, by the way.
Say what? I'm sorry.
That like crushes it on merch, by the way. Actually that quote, the power of yet. Like I did a thing of like hashtag yets. There's if you're like a teacher, then you might have heard of like the growth mindset thing. So last year, if you typed in growth mindset and like shirt would auto-populate, right? And you searched it, there was no shirts. So I was like, okay, this is cool. There's a gap in the market. So I put up a growth mindset shirt. A week later, I get a bulk order for like 55 shirts.
Oh, wow.
And then, so that spikes the BSR drop, right? And then 2 weeks later, now shirts start to join. And then, so anyway, but that niche, the power of yet, this kind of like positive classroom stuff, absolutely kills it. So I would definitely recommend something there.
That is awesome.
Well, thanks for that little glitter bomb.
Sure. Yeah, I want to be respectful of your time.
Yeah, for sure. Let's wrap it up. I mean, we probably thought. Well, we did say that we had they had. We could go for 8 hours, but we won't. Do that.
We could. Like, I have so many questions still. Like, we need to have you on again because I'm not done.
We will for sure.
I mean, I feel like we could all nerd out on merch for a while, so
right?
Yeah, that's the reason why we didn't get to talk in Seattle, because we get stuck talking to somebody else and we're talking to them for hours, right?
Yeah.
All right, but next year we'll meet up. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks everybody for hopping on. Again, thanks so much, Blake. And this was awesome, fun as always. And we will probably see everybody next week. So,
Peace. Nice to meet you.
Yeah,
nice to meet you too. Thank you.
See ya.